Welcome to the Adjunct CEO Podcast with your host, the Adjunct CEO, Dean Akers. Tips, ideas, and interviews with top leaders to help you and your business when results matter.
Hello. Welcome back for another exciting episode. And I say exciting, it's exciting for me to be able to share some of these ideas, and I say ideas, some of this real world stuff that has helped sales teams for me over the last 30 years be highly successful, both financially and for their own personal results, and then in turn for the companies. As a matter of fact, I had a person ask me the other day, what was the impact of the companies you've come into? And I did some math. I went back and I looked from the day I came in and we developed and implemented these sales programs to the day I finished up, where I'm not really getting information. I finished up my task there, or sold the company, or got out, and what was the actual real impacts? And it was really an interesting exercise out of one of our listeners' question. And so I went back, and these are round numbers, but they're pretty close. And these are the aggregate group sales or total sales of the companies I came into, various ones I've either owned and or helped, and then what the actual results were by the time I left. And whatever period that was, 2 years, 5 years, and my tire company was actually 10 years. So it's kind of an interesting number. And by the way, my tire company wasn't even by any stretch the biggest company in gross sales. So here's the number of impact that this process has had on companies that I've actively been involved in. Beginning numbers, 200 million. Ending numbers, 500 million. That's a $300 million impact with this program that I can safely say and look back on. And in some companies, or most companies, I know they're still developing or implementing the program and having great sales successes. So today we are going to have a fun lesson. It's a lesson, and again, my lessons are coming about by real world impacts during the week that I'm working with different folks, and today's going to be no exception. I had a group I was working with this past week, and we started talking about we obviously had done the 3 circles. And if you haven't done the 3 circles, I really encourage you. It's the very first step you've got to do, and it's really the eye opener. And again, it's your sales and your lost sales in circle 1. It's the market sales for where you are working in sales 3. And then it's just taking sales circle 1, which is your sales and your lost sales, the documented lost sales, and subtracting that from circle 3, which yields circle 2, which is your gross amount of sales that you lost for only one reason, and that was the sales you weren't on. And that's usually a real life, in fact, not usually, it always is a real eye opener. And therein lies the opportunity of, how do you get on the sales and how do you close them? So your 3 circles are done. We've talked about the PV list. We're just going to briefly talk about it again. And that's where you put the total value of sales for each potential client you could get, and quite frankly, put the value of the sales of the clients you do have. And then you, when you put that in there, the clients you could get, you can put a 10% chance if you've never met them or whatever. And with that math, you're going to find out what that gross amount of commission to you, or if it's a company, what the gross amount of sales could be to you and gross margin to you as a company. Again, if you have any real questions or you want to see some examples, just email me help@adjunctceo.com, help@adjunctceo.com, or now you can call and leave a message, and we'll give you a call back at a toll-free 833-ADJUNCT. That's toll-free 833-ADJUNCT, and we'll get back with you. Or you can leave a message on either venue to say, hey, could you talk about this on the show in the next couple of weeks, and we'll try to get it on the show, your question. So you've done your 3 circles. Now we're doing the PV. Your PV is going to show you what your value is. Now here's where this week's kind of lesson got prompted. I had some folks I was working with this week, and it was outbound telecalls, and they were calling clients, and they're commission based, and they're calling into markets that are identified and known. So it's not like just random robocalling any consumer hoping to sell them cable TV or some kind of nondescript thing that's a big wide swath. This was a specific product sold into a specific industry with the ability to specifically identify those folks and companies that could use our products. So the question is I was listening to an outbound call, and it was like a typical call, trying to sell, puking on them, trying to really get them. And when I was listening with them, I could hear the other side being annoyed, if not just flat hanging up. I'm not interested. Click. Ooh, I'm not interested. Click. Ooh, which is very disconcerting for somebody in that kind of sales. And typically you see a lot of turnover in that kind of sales because people really don't like to lose. Therein became the question that I asked this team. I asked them, how much do you make when you close a sale? How much do you make when you close a sale? And they said, well, the minimum I would make in a small sale or a small company we're calling on would be $600. Now, they can make more with larger companies, but for the purposes of today's visit, I'm going to use $600. And I looked at them and I went, what? And they said, yeah, $600. And I said, so you could make $600 on an outbound call to a specific kind of client that you know can use your product, so you're not calling blind, and you even know who your contact possibility is and all that, and you can make $600, and you're calling them up, puking all over them, and they're hanging up on you. Oh, what are you talking about? I just listened to those calls. Those people were annoyed. Those people hung up on you. Those people aren't going to do business with you. And the individuals go, well, sometimes they will. And I go, yeah, sometimes they will. And what's that old adage, a blind squirrel, a flying an acorn? And I know it's all about the numbers, but in my case, it's also about improving the odds on those numbers. So we sit back and reflect on it. So they can make $600 in this case. And I'm going to challenge you on the show today. Look at what a client's worth to you, what you could make when you close a client. And I would suggest that in most cases, it's way more than $600 even, especially if you're in the real estate business or selling big capital goods or stuff like that, or software and stuff. So I looked at it, I said, $600. I said, how much would you love to make? And the individual said, well, I've never made X, but, boy, it'd be a dream of mine to make $100,000. Now, this individual is young, and $100,000 is a lot of money. And don't discount that $100,000 is not a lot of money to a lot of you listening, but understand the logic and math in this. So he goes, I want to make $100,000. I go, perfect. So tell me how much that is an hour. What do you mean? How much is that an hour? Well, I'm not paid hourly. I'm paid by commission. No, that isn't what I asked you. If you made $100,000 a year and you worked a normal year and you divided the normal amount of work hours, that's writing letters, that's going to the bathroom, whatever it is in your work life environment, and divided by the $100,000, how much is it? And again, I got kind of a complex look. And I said, here, I'm going to go straight and help you. And by the way, the listeners out there, I'm going to help you today. The average person is going to work 2,000 hours a year. And you can say, I work harder than that, or whatever you want to say, but just use the number 2,000 hours a year. That's 40 hours a week times 50 weeks, and that gives you your 2 weeks vacation. Simple math, 2,000 hours a year. So at $100,000, that's going to be $50 an hour. However you get there, whether you get one big sale and it paid you $100,000, So you go, well, I made it at one sale. I made $100,000, but I only made one that year. It's still, I don't get any way you cut it. Through the work year, it's worth $50 an hour. So this was an interesting revelation to this group. So they started looking at it. So a sale where they made a $600 commission, that means at $50 an hour, they could work 12 hours on that sale to close it, and they would make $100,000 a year. It was like an eye-opener. And I said, how many accounts do you actively work that kind of time to make your income? And they go, what do you mean? I'm always dialing. I'm always hunting. I go, yeah, but you don't make any money. And people are hanging up on you. And you're not being successful. Do you want to learn a technique to be successful? And he goes, yes. I said, so $600 worth 12 hours. If you only have a 10% chance, going back to our PV list, where it's a 10% chance because they're on there, you know who the customer is. In this industry, we know. That means you can work an hour and 20 minutes. You're on the phone for 5 minutes, they hang up. You still have an hour and 15 minutes you could have worked the account. So here, and if you get the account, you could have worked 12 hours. You could have worked 12 hours. And that was an hour 20 minutes, by the way. I'm mistaked on that. This is eye-opening. I want everybody that's listening today just to take this all in. Go back, look at what a client's worth to you, divided by the annual income you want to make, and put that math of what you can work a client. And those are work hours. That's not sitting around watching TV dreaming about it. It's working them. So now we set a baseline. This was so eye-opening. We looked at his potential counts. This gentleman can make hundreds of thousands of dollars. The product he's selling is world-class, equal to or better than everybody else's, as anybody else would say. He's just with his 3 circles. He's not even on the deals, and the people are hanging up. So we said, how do we get them? Well, if they're worth $600, would you treat them different? Would you treat them different? And you could see this look, and the look was like, never thought of it that way. Well, the answer is yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. You can devote 12 hours to get this client, and you will get the client. Operative word is you will get the client. You will get the client. So we embarked now calling clients. But before we called them, I said, I want you to look them up. So we went on the internet. We looked them up. We found out about their company. We knew where they were. We knew a little bit about the individual. Oh my God, today you can Google somebody and you can use software. In fact, I use a software called My Life. I pay $100 a year. I put any of you listeners' names in there, and I can find out how many speeding tickets you got. I can find your birthday. I can find too much about you, actually, for $100 a year. It's almost insane. The point is I can find a lot about my potential customer. Then we looked at the company. What are they all about? What do they look like? Well, in this case, this particular company, we could probably make closer to $6,000 because it's a big company and there would be more of our product used there. But let's just stay with the $600. So now we did a couple calls. And when we did the calls, we had gatekeepers blocking us or whatever. And I said, we've got to become more friendly. We've got to become more just checking in type. And so we started making calls, and we started leaving just innocuous, not just very vague messages. You know, this is Dean, give me a call back. Look forward to talking to you. Now, they may not call you. They may not. And then we said, well, if they're worth $600, let's start touching them in different ways. So each call, even when we got a voicemail, we wrote a handwritten note, said, tried to call you, wanted to just touch base and introduce myself, Dean. Set it, put it in an envelope, put a 50-cent stamp or whatever stamps cost these days. I think I buy them all the time by the rules, but I think about 49, 50 cents. Put a stamp on it. We mailed it. So we mailed, 10 or 15 notes that day. Now, what's going to happen is the person's going to get our voicemail. The person's going to get our card. The card is going to be not a business card. It's going to be a pretty nondescript card, and it has your name, company, and all that on it. But it's really designed so you can write a handwritten note. Sorry, I missed you. Wanted to introduce myself. Dean. They're going to get it. They're going to open it. How many people have written them a handwritten, hand-stamped card just saying, I just wanted to introduce myself? Try about 0. So now we've left them voicemail and stuff. Now we're going to queue them up. Again, $600. We can work 12 hours. We're going to queue this client up to reach back out in another week. And we're using a CRM system, probably like many of you out there. And I got to laugh because when we were talking about this, guess why most people use CRM systems? I'm going to tell you why. Because somebody in corporate or somebody at the headquarters said, we have a CRM system, you need to put it in there. And the answer is, well, my boss wants me to use it. No kimosabi. The CRM system is a tool. It's a very valuable tool for YOU. Because if you're going to get $600 and you're going to get $50 an hour and you're going to make $100,000 and your company is providing this awesome tool and you think you're using it for them? No, this is your tool. Do they get the benefit? Sure. But take ownership of it. So now we put the stuff in the CRM. We're putting it in the CRM not so the boss can see we're making calls and we're putting stuff in the CRM. We're putting it in the CRM because the guy we called is worth $600 to us. The person's worth $600. And if we close them in 3 hours, that's $200 an hour recovery. It's just math. So now we go through the whole situation and we're doing it and we're doing the PVs and we've got the amounts. So you out there, I encourage you, take your income divided by 2,000 or the income you want. Then start assigning value to clients and putting the patience in to get a client. So in this case, we're laying out a map for this team. This map will absolutely hypergrow this company's sales. This sales team is now looking at all the things they're doing as though they're doing it for themselves. When I met them, they were doing it for the boss/company. They were keeping track. They were putting the CRM. They were doing how they were told because they were doing it for the company because the company told them to do it. Once they started understanding the math, they understood, yeah, they're doing it for the company. But at the end of the day, the company has provided these tools, even if they don't totally understand it. They've provided these awesome tools for these individuals to make a lot of money. And when we go back to our PV list, so we know the potential clients we could get, and we see that number, it becomes staggering. And that's where you start seeing the big 6-figure opportunities out there. You see the big 6-figure opportunities. So to kind of recap, if I act excited today or a little bit hypered up about it, I actually am. When I see these kind of things are the things that make me go, whoa, we've got to get this message out to all of you because this is how you make a lot of money in sales. And it ain't the boss. It ain't the CRM. The company wants me to use this CRM. The CRM is your tool. If your company doesn't have a CRM, I suggest you get online and get your own CRM. Get your own CRM. But most companies are providing them. Use it as your tool. Make it your asset, not something you have to do because you have a job. If you're commission sales, look at that value per hour that you want to make a year. If you want to make $200,000, that's $100 an hour. If you got a customer that's going to pay you $600 worth of commissions, that's 6 hours you can work on them. 6 hours. Think about how many times you've worked 6 hours on a client with a plan where you're touching them, you're building a relationship, you know about them. You really have a targeted approach to get more business. The answer is not very often. So do your 3 circles. Do not do that. Then build your PV list. Again, if you want to see an example, you need to email me at help@adjunctceo.com and I will send you an example. As a matter of fact, I'm going to offer you guys today, anybody out there, if you really want to do it at no charge, I'll help you develop your PV list. Your PV list. So now you'll have this invaluable tool with Excel that you can manage your business with and make a lot of money. So then you're going to do your PV list. And then you're going to start looking at how to get out and start creating these unique touches and build this CRM value of knowing that you're going to get that client within the hours allocated based on the value of commission or income to you. I hope today helped you. I hope all of you implement what we shared today. I've got a lot of salespeople around the country that have implemented this, that have worked with me in the past. And I know if you're listening out there, the ones that have been with me in the past, you've heard this before. And guess how often you're going to continue to hear this on a go-forward basis? Forever. Because it always works, and it will help you make a lot of money. If you're a business owner, it'll help you build your sales team so they make a lot of money and your sales go up a lot. Again, reach out to me at help@adjunctceo.com, or now you can call me and leave me a message, or I may pick up at toll-free 833-ADJUNCT. That's toll-free at 833-ADJUNCT. I look forward to hearing from all of you. I look forward to helping all of you on your road to financial success and also having a lot of fun. Because let me tell you what, when you're winning in sales and you're like this group I was just talking about, and we're starting to have fun on these outbound calls, it's not a drudgery. We're going to go rock these customers' world. We're going to have fun and make a lot of money. So till we talk again, get those 3 circles done, get that PV done, and now work on getting the depth and build out the amount of hours you can work the customers and allocate the time to get that client to be your client and make you a lot of money.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. If you have any questions or need some help, just email help@adjunctceo.com. Thanks for tuning in.